Interesting, we were talking upstairs, people are afraid or say, hey, there's problems with migrations. We've been doing these back since the GX days, which NBC was running as well. So we have this down to a science. So our customers don't have problems migrating. We plan our work, we work our plan, and 95% of what we plan works. And the 5% we fix as we go if we have to. So this is one of our expertise with our customers to get them there. Then I'm going to talk about the data fabric, which is NetApp's cloud strategy. And then just a quick overview of the presentations that are being given here. Okay, so I'm not going to read this, I promise, but where is NetApp today? They are market leaders, award leaders, IDC leaders, and let's get a look at the next one. So #1 operating system. Now, we sell many products, we integrate many products, and when you combine them, some are bigger as a company, but as an individual operating system, Data ONTAP is the #1 revenue and capacity shipped. And we're proud to be a big part of that number. So what are customer challenges? Well, deploying applications without service interruptions, to be able to get to hybrid cloud, which is where most of our customers are going, to manage complexity. Also a service-oriented approach without being locked into one solution. So with Cluster Data ONTAP, we risk mitigate, and we have the ability to make storage flexible for our customers. So what do we get with Cluster Data ONTAP? Non-disruptive operations. So any system you have today, you'll never have to migrate off it with downtime again. Efficiency and seamless scalability for both NAS and SAN. So the standard for enterprise data management from your own data center and to the cloud. So let me just build this out here. So in the old days, even with the NetApp 7-mode systems, if you had one storage array, you took downtime, and let's say it was 2 hours of fixing and planning 38 hours. And again, plan your work, work your plan. You could have 3 years per person doing 150 systems in an enterprise company. And with Cluster Data ONTAP, we don't have that anymore. Everything is non-disruptive. Zero downtime for upgrades, refreshes, replacements. Everything's transparent. So here you can see even different controller types. And I'm not going to get deep in the weeds technically, but you can see different models. You can move workloads between models. Isn't that cool? See that? It just moves. Now, so you can move a workload inline. You can reassign resources between controllers from disk subsystem to network. What does that mean? Well, it means I can take new hardware, put things in, take things off, and never have downtime on it. We can even do in-place upgrades of the controllers with no downtime now. So proven efficiency. These are innovations within NetApp. Flash pool and flash cache for acceleration. Dedupe and compression, which are all free technologies built in the box. The ability to clone work sets. Thin provisioning, and then dual parity RAID with snapshots, and the ability to scale out. So seamless scalability. Well, what if you start off small? You can change the controller, and you can scale out performance. You can add more nodes. You can also add capacity. And then you can also grow operationally, because the same admin that manages one system can manage 20 systems. By having the single interface, you don't have to add people. So we can scale outward in 3 dimensions here. The majority of our customers average to a 4 or 6 node cluster. In the case of SAN, we can go to 8 nodes, and NAS, we can go to 24 nodes. So there's plenty of room to go petabytes and millions of IOPS within these systems. So here's the other great thing here. We can start with all flash, and there's some bundles coming out toward the end of the month that are going to really drive down the cost of all flash systems. We can integrate different controllers. I can put in hybrid. So in this case, you can see spinning disks. I can put encrypted disks on one side. And I can move workloads between all those different types of tiers. So we can take the platinum, gold, silver, all the different tiers, and bronze tiers that you're going to have, and put them all within the same cluster. Transition fundamentals. The goal is to get people from 7-mode or even other competitor systems. We have 3 phases: identify, design, and implement. So we do environmental discovery and define the scope. We group volumes that make sense in what order to migrate, whether it's partial or everything at once, or by business unit or by application. We then do our design. We transition plan. We determine the optimal methods and any upgrades we need to do, and we do training with our customers too, to make sure you understand the new way of doing things and the better, different way of doing it with cluster data on tap. Then we size and design things appropriately. One thing we're really proud of, whether it's the newsroom or Jet Propulsion Lab or the customers we work with here, is that you don't find our customers coming back, oh, this thing isn't meeting my performance requirement. As you know, all of the SEs in here, we will go gather as much information as we can to size things properly. So we can't stress that enough, that it's not about where's the sale at. Is it something that's going to work today and in 5 years for you? So we take our sizing here very seriously, whether it's VMware, NetApp, Cisco, the firewalls with Palo Alto, all those different things. We are very careful to make sure we do the right thing there. Part of our culture again. So implementation, we deploy and configure, and then we do the data migrations and cutovers, any environmental upgrades, and then additional staff training for any kind of staff maintaining it or run teams that are continuing to run. And then we also document procedures, which we spend a lot of time building run books for customers or customize things and how to for help desk guys. So let's go over the migration tools, and I'm going to go through quickly without reading them for you. There's replication using native technology, SnapMirror, with a 7-mode transition tool. There are appliance-based migrations using a NAS appliance or a SAN appliance. You can use application tools or non-NetApp host-based tools. So let's talk about application tools. They provide zero downtime. Our VMware customers are some of the easiest to migrate because we put the new system in. Storage vMotion is a wonderful thing. It makes the migrations to cluster data on tap very easy. So now we deal with architecture and training, not migration challenges. And very similar with Oracle and DAG and those type of things with availability groups with SQL and Exchange. They don't preserve snapshot copies is one thing to note. However, we can turn deduplication and snapshots on and let those build over time during the migration. 7-mode transition tool. By far, it's the premier product we work with. It will take any source 7-mode system and do cutovers and configurations on the CDOT cluster. So in this case, we don't have to recreate a lot. We do our planning and make sure we meet all the criteria. Oh, sorry, question?
On the last slide, is there any consideration for considering using Hyper-V or Citrix or anything in the future other than VMware?
Oh yeah, I mean, Hyper-V can do this very similar. You can migrate things as well. And Citrix Zen as well, you can move, yeah. Yeah, so I didn't put that in the cloud slide had that, but that's a good question. And Hyper-V supports SMB3. VMware always support all the protocols as well. So, and they're all supported on NetApp. But it's a question, do you want to do a host base? It takes time to migrate every data store. Maybe you want to do it all at once. And then we could use this tool to migrate those as well. So the great thing about this tool is it not only configures everything, but it preserves all our storage efficiencies. And our snapshots are all kept. So everything you had before, you have on the target. Rapid data. This was a Cache IQ acquisition several years ago from NetApp. What this does is takes NFS data and restructures it. The DTA 2800, this is for SAN migrations. It's a tap-type device that will tap in and copy LUNs in the background and then do near online cutovers. We don't use this as much with 8.3 now because it supports SAN migrations. But this is a very, very fast way with minimal downtime to do upgrades. And that's a QLogic OEM that NetApp has. Non-host-based migration, logical volume managers, rsync robocopy. We work a lot with peer software, and there's also Data Dynamics Storage X. And very similar to application-based, they don't preserve snapshots or efficiencies, but we can re-enable those at migration. So let's talk cloud. I know I'm running fast, but I'm going to get you guys on time here. So the opportunity in cloud, hybrid cloud will be the dominant model. And this is George Kurian's vision, the new CEO of NetApp. How many people aren't looking at cloud? See, everybody. Oh, you're not looking at cloud? Not looking at cloud.
Oh, no.
Okay. So private cloud is becoming a part of hybrid cloud. It's compelling. All our customers are looking at NetApp is not going to become a cloud provider. They're partnering with a cloud provider. So you have a cloud provider, you have the hyperscaler folks like Amazon, Azure, and Google, and then hypercloud will, you can take an app in the cloud, develop it. If you need more I/O, which could be more expensive there, you can bring it back in-house. So it's lifecycle management. At the end of the application, you can move it back to the cloud. So it's automatic lifecycle management within hybrid. So this one will look familiar to a lot of you. It's just the flexibility of a cloud. How do you meet demand within your own private data center? It's very difficult. You're either wasting by over-provisioning or you're under-provisioning and can't go quickly. So the new model is to be flexible. People don't necessarily go to cloud because it's less expensive, just like maybe virtual desktop may not be less expensive. But there's operational efficiencies to do it, and that's why we're seeing customers look at that. So now, when we look at hyperscaler versus cloud and private, this is kind of the dial we're seeing our customers make decisions on. So the strategy here is, which category are you going to be in? Where are you going to be 18 months from now? Where are you going to be 3 years from now? And where are you going to be within these solutions? And that's different in a lot of our customers. But setting that dial is where we're helping people get data in and out with cloud providers. Okay, so some unique requirements here. Data has mass. So the key point here is compute is stateless. You can turn it on, you can turn it off. But if you're putting data in the cloud, you're always paying for it because it has the mass. Different cloud providers have different types of storage methods, so it's not so easy to move between one or the other once you're in there, or to even move it back in-house. So what the data fabric does is it provides a common format. So I'm going to present a few different NetApp products here as well that allow the cloud to have a common format, which gives you the flexibility to move things in, out, and between providers. Maybe Azure has a lower price than Amazon later. And we're not talking compute, it's the data side that is one of the most important points, and probably something that really is driving hybrid cloud is the data. So one thing we're going to talk about is not losing control. This is where you're going to see a presentation, Simon, with Palo Alto and HITRUST later. The enterprise will always own the data. So you always need to control what happens to your data. So the problem is you have these, we talked about isolated silos here. One cloud provider isn't compatible with the other. So how do you move things around? Well, one example is that you have SnapMirror. You run Cloud ONTAP. You can take the SnapMirror and move things between any of the cloud providers or your on-premise, making a hybrid cloud. So what is the answer? The answer is the data fabric. So the data fabric here is data is costly to move. So by using these native tools with a common format, it's effective and efficient using all the technologies you already know. And one of our big customers always tells us that, hey, cloud is not a different strategy. If you treat cloud as a new strategy, then you're thinking about it wrong. It's really just an outsourced data center. And by using something like these NetApp products, you're now making it a common format between all the vendors. So you control what's in the cloud versus the cloud vendor telling you how to store your data. So let's talk about where we were, in the early mid-2000s. We virtualized storage. We took disk subsystems and virtualized them. Then with cluster data ONTAP, we started scaling out. We said, okay, now I can take multiple nodes. And now, as of the last couple of years, we're now virtualizing the cloud itself. So let's go ahead and, I love you. Who's seen this one? Not funny. Anyway. So when we talk the hyperscaler versus cloud, that comes up sometimes. And you can see the hyperscaler providers are the IBM SoftLayer, Amazon, Azure, Google. Then you have your standard cloud service providers. Now, we have AltaVault, which was formerly SteelStore, which is a backup gateway, an archive gateway. That can connect to cloud. You can also go right to Amazon and buy a cloud appliance for it. There's also FlexArray and NetApp Private Storage. FlexArray is taking any other vendor's disk and virtualizing it behind NetApp. And then NetApp Private Storage is where you own the system and put it in the Equinix data center. And we'll show you a slide on that here. So cluster data ONTAP with Mirror and Vault and on command. We're going to show some FlexPods today, but let's go over the feature set here. You can take all your infrastructure messaging databases and put them in the cloud just by using this cloud technology, the same ONTAP you know today. Private storage for Azure and AWS, and also now SoftLayer. And you can also do an AMI image of any of those as well. So I'm going to go over some of the products real quick, and let's see our timing here. Okay, I'll do this in 5 minutes. So StorageGrid, without reading this slide, what StorageGrid is an object store. S3 and CDMI compatible. if you want to have your own on-premise. So what we've done is some people say, you know what, I want to have my backup, but I want it on-premise. So instead of using S3, we can install this locally and use an on-premise cloud. So that'd be a private cloud. Now the AltaVault appliance, this is a CIFS NFS gateway. It can connect again to the storage grid, or it can connect to any of the cloud providers. So we're seeing this is for dedupe, compression, and encryption all in one box for backup and archive. So again, I already talked to that NAS protocols and can replicate to the cloud. If we use the web scale behind it, we can actually replicate the object store as well to different sites. Primary use cases, backup recovery and cold storage. The key difference here is backup recovery, we can add disk shells for cache, for read cache, and for cold storage, we can scale much larger into petabytes, 10, 20 petabyte type scenario, and we just store the metadata only. So a wide range of integrations. You can see on the top left all the backup vendors, and every backup vendor you're working with is supported on here. And the dedupe rates are very, very good because it's variable block length. So a lot of efficiency. So however, if you're using some of your backup software vendors to write to the cloud today, this will give you more efficiency than you get because it's all in the hardware. So some cloud services built on NetApp. It's kind of a cool slide. So now I'm going to talk about Cloud ONTAP, and then we'll finish this up here. So it's always on, scale out, and cloud programmable. The way it was designed is storage virtual machines. So right out of the box, it's multi-tenant. It also does quality of service natively, which is important because you might want one tenant who can have 5,000 IOPS, another tenant who only gets 400 megabyte a second, for example. So you can see here your standard FAS, Flex Array. ONTAP Edge is back. That is a VMware version of Data ONTAP. So if you have a remote office and you want to put in NetApp storage without, in your own private cloud, we can do that natively on the VMware environment. There's also private storage, NetApp Private Storage, which means I can connect into the Equinix data center. They can pipe me into Azure, SoftLayer, or into Amazon. So if you don't like one vendor, you simply unplug the cable, plug it into the next one, virtually, that's speaking. And then there's also Cloud ONTAP, which this is the pure virtualized image. So you can see here, there's the Equinix data center, and you can see the different cloud providers. And what Equinix does is pipes you into any one you want. So someone drops their price on connectivity, connect to the other one, if it makes more sense. So expanding your options, you can snap mirror and snap vault between those different types. So again, we're commonalizing the data. You're not letting the cloud vendor tell you what your data type is going to be. So get enterprise class features, get NAS in the cloud, and get integrated support. You get the same support in the virtual versions of this as you get on the hardware versions we sell today. So let's look at the different options. There's the hourly, and then bring your own license. So 2, 10, or 50 terabytes. The bring your own license is where we provide you a key and you go out and get it, up to 50 terabytes there. The hourly is more as you're doing testing, test dev, or something you need to spin up. And this is in the Amazon Marketplace today, along with the AltaVault, the Steel Store appliance. So what are some customer scenarios? Peak workload, enterprise, dev test, DR, any kind of bursty application you may have. Let's move on here. So I wanted to make sure I got to this proof of concept. You can try this for free. poc.netapp.com/cloud. And then you can try out the cloud.